Welcome to Practify, the podcast where we go inside the minds of private practice owners who have successfully scaled their practice and are open to sharing the strategies and mindset behind their growth. Today, I'm talking with Nicole Cruz, the founder of Nourish Together. She's a registered dietitian, mom of three, and a family nutrition coach with a deep belief in intuitive eating and non-diet approaches. Nicole helps parents create more joy and less stress around food for their families. Nicole, I'm so glad you could join us.
Thank you. I'm
So,
so glad to be here.
great. So, before we get into your current work, I'd love to start with your story. We'll go back to where your career began, what pulled you into dietetics, and how those early roles shaped your perspective on food and family nutrition. I'd also love to touch on how being a mom influenced your path and the way you approach your work today. So, Nicole, when did you first realize your own relationship with food needed healing, and how did that lead you towards becoming a registered dietitian?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. In my teen years, like my late teen years, as I was wrapping up high school and moving into college, I realized that I was really struggling with my own relationship with food, just my behaviors around food, the whole cycle of like restricting my intake, binging, feeling out of control with different foods, all of that. And I knew that things were off, but it wasn't until I got to college. I moved away, went to college, and I was really struggling, like couldn't keep up with my classes. I was getting really weak, just like medically having issues and whatnot, and realized that I was struggling with an eating disorder and I really needed to get help and support. And so I left school and I was there. Actually, it's like a neuroscience major. And so I was into the sciences, but I left school and moved back home and just didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I got treatment for my eating disorder and everything. And through that, I was working with a therapist and a dietitian. And when I was doing a lot better and feeling a lot more at peace with food, a few years down the road, um, I was trying to figure out like, what do I want to do now? Like, I don't want to go back into this like neuroscience major. What is it that I want to do? And I really wanted to be able to help support people like my therapist and dietitian had supported me. And I just felt kind of like I have this secret now that people don't get, that like you can actually have a peaceful relationship with food. You can actually trust yourself to eat. You can eat a variety of foods. You don't have to constantly be like dieting and controlling what you're eating and all this back and forth around it that so much of our culture has. So I really wanted to support others with that. And because I was really into the sciences, it seemed like a dietitian, a more nutrition based path versus therapy felt like a really good fit for me. So I went back to school, I became a dietitian, and I went right into primarily helping others heal their relationship with food and treating eating disorders. I worked at inpatient and outpatient treatment facilities. I worked at substance abuse facilities, helping people with disordered eating as well. And after a few years of doing that, I opened my own private practice. And so then I had like brick and mortar practice in a couple of towns over, and I would see clients in person. And I did that even for a few years into having kids. And when you ask about my, how being a mom influenced my work today, well, that's how I went from treating primarily disordered eating clients into now supporting families more because as a parent, I would be around all of these other parents and I could just see the struggles with food around trying to get their kids to eat their vegetables, not eat too much, cake at the birthday party or whatever it might be. And as I was watching this, I was also hearing well-meaning, like loving, intentional parents saying things that I could see were planting seeds for disordered eating, just like the things I was hearing in the office from my teen and adult clients who are struggling with their relationship with food. Things like, no, you're cut off after two pieces, or you can't have any more, or if you want more crackers, you need to eat your vegetables first, and all of these things that can interfere in having a healthy relationship with food. So that's how I got into my primary work, which is now supporting parents around helping their kids have a healthy relationship with food, but also dealing with the very practical things around feeding kids and the concerns around, quote unquote, picky eating, worrying that they're eating too much or not listening to their body, that they're not getting a variety of foods, that they're obsessed with sweets or that's all they want to eat. So it's practical things like that, as well as really looking at the big picture and the environment that we're creating around food.
And what made you shift from the clinical setting to starting your own practice?
Um, Part of it, well, I think there were a couple of things. One is working in the clinical setting, like in an inpatient eating disorder facility. It's like really heavy work to be like that many hours all day, every day, hearing about all of the trauma and helping people really, heal. And so it's not that like I don't love that work, but it's really holding a lot of space for people, doing it like a 9 to 5 job, 5 days a week. It was a lot. I also knew that I wanted to have a private practice so that I could have flexibility as I started my family. So, right around the time that we were about to start having kids, I was like, I want to go have a private practice so I can make my hours, so I can adjust them, so I can be present for my kids. Um, and then, even with that, I started doing some virtual sessions. Like, I might have a client move away or go to college. And so we would still meet virtually. And so I was like half in, half out on doing some virtual, some in office work. And then with COVID, a lot more turned over. And then I just never went back to the office after that.
And did your experience as a parent influence how you approach family nutrition?
Yeah, I think definitely because I had studied, right, how to feed kids in school and I had read all of the books around it. And even before I had kids, I actually worked at a different hospital, not an eating disorder hospital, at a regular like medical hospital. And I was teaching outpatient classes on like family nutrition and all of that. So I had done all of that. I like knew about it, but it wasn't until you have kids and you're really in the day to day of needing to get them regular snacks or them refusing to eat dinner or them, crying in the middle of the grocery store if you don't buy them something. Like it wasn't until having kids to realize the real intricacies of it. And like we can have all the theory around how we're supposed to do it, but really applying it is what's challenging. And that's what I find for my clients. They often tell me, like, I know kind of like what I'm supposed to do or not, but I don't actually know how to do that for my family or how to implement it. It feels tricky when you're in it.
And how, as a role as a mother, how has that impacted what success means to you?
Oh, that's a great question. Because I think, right, we can look at success in so many ways. But for me, which was something that I don't think I saw as much before I was a parent, is the like having time actually outside of work. So the flexibility of it is success to me, being able to make my own hours. I'm the one that drops my kids off and picks them up every single day, and the one who, gets to take them to the sports practice or whatever that might be. So really having the like freedom and flexibility to choose. And of course, I contribute to my family financially. And so it means having also a practice that brings in income. I'm not suggesting that's not it, but it's not just about that, where I think in the past it was much more about like, making money and serving my clients. I do this work because I love it. So it's not about, not serving clients either. It's about serving and supporting clients and really helping them heal and shift and grow. But as a parent now, it's so much more about the flexibility and freedom.
How do your personal values around joy, stress-free meals, and freedom shape your work model?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's like so when I think about feeding kids and just navigating food in general, stress and tension really interfere with a relationship with food, right? Like if a kid is showing up to the table and it's like all they're hearing is arguing and stuff, who wants to eat? Or some kids will like die, or adults too, dive into their food even more because it's like, well, I need to avoid, right, this situation. And so I just think about that. Everything we have is a relationship. We have a relationship with money and with work and with all of these things. And so I think anytime we're having like stress and tension, that's not going to be good for the thing that we're trying to do. So if that's my business, if that's work, if that's seeing my clients, if I'm feeling a lot of stress and tension and I'm not feeling joy about it, that's going to impact the work that I'm able to deliver as well.
What early fear would you say, or even a challenge, nearly made you walk away from private practice?
Um, I don't know that I've ever, well, I could say I've never wanted to walk away. Like I've known this is it. Like this is what I want to do. If I ever have even like a fleeting thought about it, I'm like, no, I can't imagine going back to working for somebody else and not having that flexibility, right? Having to be on somebody else's schedule. So I don't feel like there's a moment that I've like truly wanted to walk away. But I will say, moving from in office work in my community where I had built such a presence there, and I had so many referrals from therapists, from pediatricians, physicians, other dietitians, whatever, that I never had to like market myself in any way or anything. I just had referrals coming in. And so moving to the online world is a lot different when now it's like, oh, how do I create that presence again? And how do I get referrals? How do I bring people into this business? So I will say that transition is like a big shift for not just having the like community-based referrals anymore. I think that has been a challenge of like, trying to get clients in this way that was so different from what I did before. I think that's the biggest thing. Otherwise, like, I love having the flexibility that I have, and I love the work that I do in seeing clients.
And would you say there was a defining moment for you where you thought, this is exactly why I'm doing this?
It's hard to say a defining moment. I think there's just so many moments where I see these shifts, right? A client that comes and says, they went to the party and they were no longer stressed. They weren't looking up like the menu and trying to restrict themselves all day and figure out what they're doing. And then they like go to the party and they have a great time. So they're not worried about food. Like it's just all of these, honestly, like little moments of things, of hearing these little wins of how they're not stressed about it anymore, how they go on a vacation with their family and they're not worried that, their kid isn't going to eat anything there, so I think I'm constantly getting that feedback and those wins that make me say, like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
How has your understanding of health shifted since you began your journey?
Um, I think it's shifted primarily through my own work on my own relationship with food is actually where it shifted the most, where I used to think, we're just supposed to like, not eat too many calories, eat more fruits and vegetables, exercise. And like we get that message all the time around like needing to exercise more, getting 10,000 steps a day. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong or anything, but it's just this constant emphasis on like what you're eating, how much you're eating, and if you're moving enough. And through my own eating disorder journey, and then of course working with clients continuously on in that same way, I've been able to see that health is so much bigger than that, because if we're doing things to support our physical health in some way and it's affecting our mental and emotional health, then that's not healthy either. And when we focus too much on just nutrition and exercise, it really takes us out of balance. So now I see health is having more joy in life, having that freedom, being able to eat without stress and not worry about it, not have guilt and shame around food. So it's a much bigger picture now.
What's one thing you wish you could say to yourself when you first started doing family nutrition work?
Hmm. I'm trying to think, what do I wish? It's so hard to like put yourself back in that place, It's like here I am now. It's hard to think back to what it was like then. Gosh, I think, I mean, the first thing I guess I should say, it's what's coming up for me is like, you're going to help so many families. Like, I really didn't know what I was starting. I was kind of just like, I'm going to start this little private Facebook group and see if people join, and I'll start putting a little bit of content on Instagram. And it's just grown and impacted so many people.
Next, I want to get into how you've built your practice and your philosophy. You've developed a family first approach that's grounded in intuitive eating and food freedom. I'd like to explore what that looks like in practice and how you've created resources to make your message accessible to more parents. So, Nicole, how did you develop your stress-free family eating workshop?
So, sorry. So, can you repeat that?
So, pretty much, how have you developed your stress-free family eating workshop?
Yeah. So my overall approach is really focused on this philosophy of bringing more joy and less stress to feeding kids, but also on the fact that as parents, they do need our guidance and support with food. Like, we're not just meant to like throw them out into the wild to say figure it all out. And so having a free for all approach to food of just saying like eat whatever you want whenever you want typically is actually not supportive of kids. So I bring in the elements of like, yes, we need to be parents and we need to be guides and we need to create some structure and some boundaries with food, but within that we really need to give our kids permission, safety, control, comfort with food so that they're able to, eat a variety, listen to their body cues, not have guilt and shame, not obsess about any type of food. So, I really look at it as like this balance of giving our kids autonomy and providing some structure and boundaries with food.
What's the biggest myth parents hold about their kids' eating behaviors?
I think it depends on the parent. I think a lot of parents feel like there's a couple things coming up for me. So I think one is like, it's my responsibility to make them eat well, to get them to eat well. Like, I need to do that. So that might mean I need to tell them that they have to eat their vegetables or whatever it might be. And actually, that usually has a rebound effect where then kids want to avoid their vegetables more because you're trying to force them to eat them. Or, oh, they shouldn't have that much, French fries, or they shouldn't have that many cookies or that much sugar or whatever. And so I need to stop them from doing that, which often creates a greater obsession around food. So I think the overarching idea is like, it's my responsibility. I need to get them to eat a certain way, which then ends up actually rebounding and creating behaviors that we don't want.
How do your guides, like raise an intuitive eater, fit into parents' journeys?
Like in terms of their own work in their family, or you mean in my practice?
In their work, so like raising their children.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do have multiple guides, like Five Keys to Raise an Intuitive Eater, and I have a Make Mealtimes Fun guide and one on sugar and sweets. And so, for a lot of people, I think it is like the overarching entry point of like, oh, these are the principles that we need to start applying. So, like in my Five Keys to Raise an Intuitive Eater, I teach about that balance of creating structure, but giving autonomy, having neutrality around food, kind of these like overarching basics where I think for some parents know some of this information or they've read about feeding kids and have some understanding. Um, but for a lot of people, that might be an entry point to like, oh, whoa, I didn't realize that me talking about sugar negatively could actually make my kid want it even more.
How has offering downloadable resources impacted your reach and workflow?
Yeah. So I do think it's really helpful for parents to, one, get free resources, right? So I think we have tiers of like people that we can reach in different ways. So like I post on social media and stuff, so that's all free resources to just spread this message and get people um, to understand maybe a different approach or a different philosophy around food. And same with those downloadable resources. So if people reach out to me, I can always like if they can't, if they don't want to invest or they can't afford something, then that's a way for them um, to still get some information and some support in that way. But also, they're a great way to, yeah, give somebody something so that they can get to know me a little bit better, understand the philosophy, which is another entry point to then maybe getting on my email list, getting more regular emails to, again, get to know me a little bit better, and then to be able to make a decision around whether or not it seems like a fit to maybe get some additional support and actually work with me one-on-one or inside of one of my programs.
What do you see parents struggling with most when it comes to kids and food?
Um, uh, we could talk about the practical things, which the practical things are kind of the three things I mentioned before, which is um, the quote unquote picky eating, being worried that their kid isn't eating a variety, doesn't want to try anything new, feeling like their child doesn't have like an off switch with food. They would just keep eating and eating if they let them, or being kind of obsessed or preoccupied with sweets, only wanting to eat those. So those are like the three categories of things that I primarily see. But something else that comes up a lot, which is more like the internal, is they'll tell me all the time, like, I need help with my own reactions. Like, I know you're telling me not to pressure my kid to take a bite, but it's so hard to sit at the table and watch them like not eat their vegetables and get another piece of bread or whatever it might be. And so it's a lot of like inner work and unlearning and relearning different ways to think about food and kids and feeding them.
When parents say their child only eats like junk food, how do you reframe that narrative?
Yeah. So one is I recommend that we don't use arbitrary labels is what I often say. So like junk food, what does that actually mean, right? Versus like an apple is a fruit, or a cake is a sweet, or, pretzels are salty or crunchy. Like these are all descriptive, objective words. But random categories of like quote unquote junk, or a growing food, or a healthy or unhealthy food, that makes it really challenging it makes it hard to put foods into those categories, because what classifies as any one of those things? So one of the things that I teach right off the bat is to stop labeling foods with arbitrary categories. Just call food what it is. Either call it an apple because it's an apple, or call it a fruit because it's an apple, like just an objective name. So that's one thing. The other is starting to look at food in like a broader perspective, and to recognize that, yes, we do need a variety of different foods, and different foods provide different things. So we aren't going to get the same, maybe like vitamin A and fiber and whatnot in an apple as chips. Like we're going to get different nutrients, but chips still do provide carbohydrates. That doesn't mean that they're like devoid of all nutrition. They still could be a snack, or they could be paired with other food. So recognizing that no one food in and of itself is going to make us healthy or unhealthy. It's really about us getting a variety of nutrients. And so that's one way I help them see it, is like, actually, it's not that we should just be labeling these foods or eliminating them. It's that we just need other foods to go with them, so that we're getting a balance of all different nutrients. And also recognizing that when we create those labels and call foods junk, or say we shouldn't have them, that actually makes our kids want them more. It puts them on a pedestal. So it's looking at it from a couple of different angles.
What's your approach to working with teens or adults healing their food relationship?
So it's a lot the same of what I do with parents, actually, which is creating more neutrality around food. So trying to get rid of some of the guilt and shame for eating certain foods. It's learning to build trust back into ourselves, that we can be around all foods, that we can listen to our own hunger and fullness cues. And that's part of the work that I do with clients. Sometimes they're so detached from that it's helping them get back in touch with, how do I even know when I'm hungry? How do I know when I'm full? And giving them different tools and ways to start assessing that. But really, it's bringing us back into our own bodies and learning to trust ourselves and to be able to eat a variety. So I also work with them on practical aspects. Let's figure out foods that you enjoy, that are going to be satisfying and fulfilling. And then let's also look at if there's foods that you're eating that don't feel good in your body. How do we want to navigate that? So it's really coming from like a part nutrition perspective of understanding, yes, we do need a variety of nutrients. We do need protein. We do need carbs. We do need fat. We do need produce. We need all of these. We need all of these things. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to also being able to listen to our body. So it's incorporating both elements.
What's a tip you hear parents use most often from your workshop?
Can you say that again? I didn't hear what the first part was.
What's a tip that you've given parents use most often from your workshop?
I think there's a couple of things. One is like dropping all pressure. I tell them, like, I use this slogan, like, set it and forget it, which I think was an old like infomercial or something for like a crock pot or something like that. Like, set it and forget it, and then you're done. That's what I tell parents about feeding kids. Like, you're creating that structure, so you're going to decide what you're having for that meal or that snack or whatever it is. But once you put it on the table, once you've decided and you've served it, now your job is done. So you're like, set it and forget it. Now I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to tell my kid they have to eat this part of it or cut them off at this part. So it's really removing that pressure in the micromanaging of what they're actually eating. So I would say the set it and forget it is one of the major things, but then also that neutrality piece around the language and in dropping labels of foods.
All right, Nicole, let's lighten things up with a quick game called One Word Answer. Here's how it works. I'll give you a question or prompt, and you can only respond with one word, no sentences, no explanation, just your gut reaction. Ready?
Okay.
Most essential skill for pediatric nutrition coach.
Listening.
One thing every dietitian should never cut from their business.
Clients.
Best form of content for connecting with parents if you could just choose one.
Speaking.
What's the hardest part of building a parent-focused practice?
Reactions.
One tool you can't imagine working without.
Computer.
Your favorite time of day to work with energy.
Morning.
Biggest distraction for practitioners to avoid.
Cell phones.
Go-to way you reset when work gets heavy.
A walk.
Your most prized business investment so far.
Nourish Together.
First word that comes to mind when I say empowerment.
People.
All right, Nicole, let's pull back the curtain on the business side of things. I want to explore how you balance one-to-one working with a group of offering and digital resources, what systems you use to keep everything running, and how do you manage your time as both a practitioner and a mom? So, Nicole, how do you manage clinical care while also leading workshops and groups?
I wish there was like a magic answer because I feel like this is an ongoing balance, honestly. Like to say that I have it all figured out would be lying. Um, but I do think that one, let me say this. One, it is also figuring out what lights you up. Like, what do you want to do? How much time do you want to spend? I am a huge connector. Like, I love coaching clients, being in there, working with them. And so I want to do a lot of that. So I want to do one-to-ones. I want to do my group program. Like, I want to be in client sessions. And I do know that I need to be bringing clients in and I need to be, posting and running workshops. And I do enjoy those things too. And that's like a creative outlet for me, is to be able to create new things and share them. So it's this balance. But what I have is basically, I used to be so booked with one-to-ones in my group that there was just no time for anything. And then I didn't feel like I had freedom. I felt like I was working after my kids got out of school and like my schedule was all over the place. So one of those was I did reduce my one-to-one client load so that I could have more space in my business to be able to do other things as well. So for me, it's having a handful of one-to-one clients that I can see weekly or bi-weekly. So it's doing a handful of sessions every week. It's running my group each week as well. And then in the midst of that, I have additional things that I'm working on. So I usually have working on social media posts that I'm doing. I will have usually like a training that I'm working on. And so that could be back end stuff, or it could like in terms of setting it up and trying to get people in, or it could be adding new elements to it, and creating a new training. And then I do like trainings inside of my program. So there's these different elements that I look at, which is one, how are we bringing people into our world, which is a lot of like social media content and stuff like that. How are we nurturing and connecting with them? So I write a weekly email to my email list. I'm starting a podcast right now, so I've been working on that. So there's usually I have like one kind of big project I'm working on. then I will run like webinars and things, or I do calls. Like people can sign up for a free call to chat with me to see if they want to join my program, if that seems like a good fit. So I have space for that, like sales, right? And then the final thing is like client fulfillment. So it's meeting with clients one-on-one, delivering in my group program. So there's kind of 4 categories, and I have a little bit of space for each of those each week.
Nicole, do you use tech like automation or scheduling tools to manage offerings?
Yeah, in a handful of different ways. So I do use mini chat on Instagram and stuff so that if people could like comment the word, then I can just automate sending them my free guide or whatever that might be. Or if I'm doing, like I have a training that I'm doing next week that's a paid training. But if people go and they read a caption on social media, it says comment the word apple. They'll comment the word apple, and then I send them to the page where they can read more about the training. So I use mini chat. I use Calendly for people to be able to schedule like a sales call. I call it an eating alignment call with me to get to see if we might be a good fit to work together. I feel like I have more automation than that, but those are at least the 2 big ones. Well, and then my emails and stuff. So if people sign up for like a free guide or something, then they're going to get a series of automated emails before then they start getting my weekly emails.
How do you keep your own life balanced amongst busy family seasons?
It's challenging, honestly, and there's times when it doesn't feel as balanced as I would like it to, but I try to make that be like less than more. Summer is a really challenging time because the kids are around and there's not as much structure, and I'm still trying to run my group or see clients and work. And so it feels like outside of those times when I'm like direct face to face with clients, then I want to be with my kids versus like working on my business. So that always feels like a tricky time during summer or winter break when they're home. But when they're at school, I have 3 kids that are school age now, so they're all in school. So I kind of have the hours from like 9 to 2 to work. I'm very disciplined about like that is my work time. I'm not going to the grocery store, cleaning the house. It's just as if I were at an office. I'm like, that's when I work, which then gives me the separation to be like, now that my kids are home, now I'm with them. And I'll check my emails later in the day and make sure I might check social media. Or if I am working on a webinar, maybe I get an hour before dinner where the kids are all kind of settled and doing their own thing where I can work for a bit. So I'll find little pockets occasionally to get a bit more work in if I have a bigger project going on that I'm trying to do. But otherwise, I really try to separate my, day at work from my family time.
What's one business habit you depend on to stay balanced?
I mean, it's probably what I just said, actually, which is like my work time is my work time, and I'm disciplined about that. I think that's the biggest thing, because if I were utilizing that to clean the house and do other things because I work from home, it then creates this kind of confusion and the lack of boundaries, even where then maybe I'm working more when the kids are home and that sort of thing. So I'm very much like, this is work time, and I stick to that.
When did you realize you needed to create group content in addition to one-to-one support?
Um, I think so. For me, I do like doing one-to-ones a lot, but there were a couple things coming up. One, I think, is that only wanting to work the hours that my kids are in school, it's great if I can have a group and then I can support more people together versus just feeling like back-to-back one-to-ones all the time, which also can be a lot, like the energy of just like holding space all the time nonstop, and not being able to do other things. The other is I love groups, and I love the connection that they bring, and having that sense of community and being able to recognize that other people are going through similar things. And that's what a lot of parents come into my programs and say, like, I feel so seen now. And like, it's really hard because maybe, their sister and the cousins or something, they eat everything and their kids won't eat anything, or they feel judged by them or something like that. Or they, other people in their world think differently about food. And so I think because of the content that I have and the way that my approach to feeding, it feels countercultural a lot of times for people. And so having that space for connection with other parents that are like-minded and want the same thing for their kids, is really important. So that's why like every once in a while I do think like, oh, maybe it would be easier to just do one-to-ones or something versus like the group and like doing, and I'm like, but this is what I love. And I know that this space is so important.
How do you protect your energy as a deeply empathetic practitioner?
Yes, I feel that because I am. And I think sometimes that can be really challenging. I mean, even on our call, I had a group call this morning. I could feel myself really tearing up, talking through things with this mom. So it can be really challenging. And I felt that from day one with my work of, clients healing their relationship with food and maybe the trauma that they've experienced and their eating disorder and all the layers. So I think one is having that space, right? To like not just be nonstop work, 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 but having the space for other things. I do meditation, I journal, I go on walks, like I have other self-care and grounding practices. And I will feel that. Like I know I said I'm so protective of my work, but if I have a break in the day and I'm feeling like I need something, I'll even do a 5-minute walk around the block or something just to be like, I need to reground myself. So getting fresh air, that sort of thing. And I know, and I've had seasons like this in the past where I just try to push, 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 and it's too much for me. I now know how productive that can be to actually like take a step back and recenter myself. So I probably do that almost once a day, even in the middle of the day, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, just go outside, regroup, reground, and it's really helpful. And I do try to start the day with a meditation and stuff too.
And what do you say yes to, and how do you say no to maintain boundaries?
In work or in life or
More in, I'd say, parents looking after their children.
like like you mean my clients?
Yeah, so like, when's it time for them to say like yes, and when's it time to say no, to set the boundaries?
Got it, got it, got it. Okay. Now I'm understanding. So there's a couple of like hard and fast rules that I would say, which are we we never pressure our kids to eat anything. So that's just like that's even a boundary with ourselves. I say like that's a boundary we have to hold with ourselves to say we don't pressure, we don't force, we don't bribe, we don't engage in any of that. So like that's one thing that's just like a hard and fast rule around it. But with that said, what I teach about, my approach is that it's really the overall environment that we're creating. So I call it an empowered eating environment that we're creating. And so part of the work that I do with parents actually is like, yes, we have some general guidelines, and I'll give you those in a minute. We do have some general guidelines, but also I want you to lean into learning to trust yourself as a parent in this scenario and knowing that there are times when you're going to be more flexible and you're going to say, yeah, go ahead and do that. Or other times when you're going to hold the boundary and you're going to say, no, I'm sorry, we're not getting bread out for dinner tonight or whatever it might be, right? And like, so there are times we can be flexible, and I want you to also be able to trust yourself, because what matters is the bigger environment that we're creating that doesn't involve guilt, shame, pressure, etc. It's the way we're talking about food. So what I will say to that though is the general guidelines are, yes, parents need to be the support system. They need to create boundaries and have some structure. We need to be more proactive with food, so we're not always reacting to, can I have a granola bar? Can I have a fruit roll up? Can I have this? And then we're like left on our heels, like da da da. But when we create the structure and we say, hey, we're going to have a snack and this is what we're having. We're having some chips, we're having some cheese, we're having apple slices, whatever we're having. This is the snack and we're putting it out. Or we're having yogurt and granola and fruit. This is the snack. Then it's a lot easier to hold those boundaries when the kids are like, no, but I want a fruit roll up. And you can say like, I totally get you want that, and we can pack that for lunch tomorrow, or we can have that whenever. But this is what we're having for snack right now. So when we are more proactive and we're creating that structure, it's easier to hold the boundaries. And again, that's what I mean. Like an example of being flexible though, if your kid comes in and you're like, oh yeah, it's snack. We should get snacks out. And they're like, I want chips. You might say like, sure, put those chips on the table and I'll get some other food out too. You don't have to say, no, we can't have chips because they came to you and wanted chips, but maybe you're already making something else. Maybe you already have a plan for snack and you're about to put it out on the table. You might say, I get you want chips. We'll have those tomorrow. I've already decided this is what we're having. So that again, you're being that support to make sure that you are offering a variety of foods, that you are providing, you're giving them the ability and space to be able to eat a variety. Because if food's a free for all, kids tend to gravitate towards the same familiar, convenient foods again and again. I'm just going to grab the granola bar, the packaged, goldfish crackers or whatever it is. They're going to gravitate towards the same foods. So they need us to be that structure and support.
How have you created pipelines like emails or guides to support clients over time?
Yeah, so I do so like I said, I have like people that aren't necessarily clients yet that I do email on a weekly basis. But for my clients that are already in my program, like on my group program, I send out a weekly email. So every Sunday we send out an email saying, hey, this is what's coming up for this week. I put in like a thought, like whatever's on my mind or whatever's coming up for me, some sort of inspiration or something, that we have going on. So I'll share a thought and then we list, what calls are coming up this week, what do we have going on, etc. So we do that. And then I have a VA that helps me. So like we have a document, I do it, and then she goes in and schedules everything. Then we have emails that go out on the day of all of our calls. We have a Friday check-in email that goes out that's like to keep us connected. Is anybody struggling with anything? And so then it like sends them a form to fill out so that they can kind of just do a check-in, and then we check over them, and I meet with my VA and we go over all the responses and stuff so that we can make sure we're supporting people. So we have a whole system in place for how we can support our clients outside of groups and everything too, which involves general emails and then the group calls and everything.
How do you measure success in your practice, and what does growth look like for you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question around how do you measure, because I think that is tricky and it could look different for everyone. And I think sometimes I feel like I'm not successful enough, or, I'm looking at income and feeling like, oof, like the profit margin this month or whatever's going on, it can feel like I'm not successful. And so I do think success is also like a perspective. And so I think it's a great question to be looking at, like, what does that actually mean for you? And if I have to define it, I think it has so much to do with like, do I feel like I'm in purpose with the work that I'm doing? Do I feel like I'm in alignment with the work that I'm doing? Do I feel fulfilled by it? Do I feel like I'm serving? I think that's the biggest measure of success. And then of course we can look at, income and profit. We can look at how many clients we're serving, all of those things, but those things are going to go up and down all the time. So I think we have to be able to also really just be in alignment with the work that we're doing.
What business decision are you proud of making that helped you grow without burnout?
I think, yeah, starting my courses in my group program, both. So I like started by doing it with, I'm just going to start a course. And I did. And I like ran this course that had a few weeks of support with it, which over time shifted and it's evolved into what I have as Nourish Together now. And honestly, it's like, it's the thing I'm most proud of in my business ever, because I know how many parents it helps. It has a full, essentially like curriculum that goes with it, like step by step. I know it's so supportive when people go through it. And then also, again, I think people do need more help with implementation. And so I'm a big, like I said before, connector. And so I offer this ongoing support when you're in the program too, to like come and get real coaching in real time. And it's small groups. So people are really getting to connect. They're not just hoping they get a question answered out of 50 people or something. And so it really is the thing I'm most proud of. And I know, that it's already helped, so many parents be able to go through that maybe couldn't afford my one-to-one service, or I know I wouldn't have had space because I was getting so burnt out when I was doing one-to-ones and trying to build my course at the same time. So this has really allowed me to reach and help so many parents.
Nicole, this part is all about the mindset of your journey. We'll talk about the internal shifts you've had to make, how you've stayed grounded in your mission when diet culture is so loud, and how you've been able to empower parents to let go of guilt and shame around food. So, Nicole, how do you stay centered in intuitive eating when diet culture is everywhere?
Yeah. I think one of the things that's really helpful for me is that I've actually had my own journey with this. And so it helps me be able to look back and say, like, sometimes I don't know if I'm doing it right. Like I'll just question myself, like, oh, should I have said that, or should I have done that, or should I have let them whatever, or am I giving them too much sugar, or is it like I have these like moments, and I can always go back to like I never want my kids to go through the experience that I went through with food. And that's what I come back to again and again, is just knowing like what I care about more than anything they eat is their relationship with food. And I also know that when they have a healthy relationship with food, that will impact how they eat in a positive way. It will help them eat more balanced and eat a variety and all of those things. So I know that it leads to that. But I just have to come back to like my foundation and mission again and again. And I think my own journey helps me do that.
How does your personal recovery story fuel your resilience in your work?
I think mainly what I just said, right, in terms of just being able um, to keep showing up, even when people online or whatever fight back or say, like, I even had a post yesterday that, people are saying, like, what are you talking about? It is all trash and that food is trash and blah, 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 and all this stuff. So I get people that, come back at me over the message that I'm sending. And so I think it is coming back to that mission again and again of like, I know what I'm here for. And I've seen so many stories. I've worked with so many clients. It's not just my own mission. I've worked with so many clients who have struggled with their relationship with food and say, I just don't want to pass this on to my kid. So I know that there are other parents doing the same work, and that keeps me going too. Like in terms of just having hope that more people will continue to find this message and want to do it different for their kids.
What message would you say might stick with parents who think they failing if their kids aren't eating right?
Yeah. Um, I always tell parents like every kid has their own relationship with food. And some kids are just naturally going to be more adventurous, and some kids are going to not want to try new things, right? Just like if we have an anxious kid, they might be more anxious around food. Same within social situations. Like we don't know. So everybody has their own temperament. Some kids are going to like food a lot more and be interested in it. Maybe they're going to be a chef when they grow up, where other ones just won't care about it. And so I think it's really important to remember that our kids are their own people, and we are here to guide and support them. But it's not our job to like try to fix them or to shape them into something that they're not, and you're not failing. Like the best thing that you can do is to support them in having a healthy relationship with food, getting the nutrients that they need, but your job is just to keep showing up and offering and being that guidance, not to make them do something.
When you have doubts on your impact, how do you show up anyway? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I think we froze for a minute.
All good. When you have your doubts about your impact, how do you manage to show up anyway?
I think one is that I have like some standard things that are almost like non-negotiable that I do. And so I just know like I'm going to send an email to my list every week, and I'm going to post on social media. We post 5 days a week, and we have like a way that we do content. And I know that my VA is waiting for me to get that information to her so she can post. So I think having non-negotiable things where sometimes maybe I don't go like above and beyond if I'm not feeling my energy there, but I just have like a baseline for this is what I do. And so it keeps me going, even if not. So I think one is like strategic, it's like, this is what I'm showing up for, and I've decided that, and I'm accountable for it. And so having that there. But I think other things too are, yeah, reminding ourselves, like when we were talking about the mindset around it all, it's being able to remind myself and look at all the parents that I've helped already and think about the success stories, think about the DMs that I get, think about the parents that say like, I didn't even realize how much stress this was creating. I feel more connected to my child now. It's like remembering, like really sitting down and actually like visualizing and remembering those specific people that you actually have helped.
And Nicole, how do you use community for yourself and for your clients to sustain long-term change?
Yeah. Um, so I am a big believer in community. And so I pretty much almost always am part of somebody else's community. And I have that in a couple of different ways. So, like paid programs. So, like right now, I am in a paid program where I'm showing up with other entrepreneurs and stuff. And it's really helpful to be able to hear other people say that they're struggling and know it's part of business, or for me to say like, oh, this didn't go well, and then to have other people say like, keep going, I've been there before too, or you're doing great or whatever, and just to have that community. But we have to utilize it, right? We have to be able to reach out and share and to read other people's stories too. So having other people that really understand you, I think, is really important. I also have a peer community who I love. There's four of us that we met in a different group a little while back. And so we have regular chats with each other. I don't know if you're familiar with the app Voxer, but we voice and text all the time with each other. We meet about every other week and sit down and we share what's going on in our business and we support each other, whether that's with mindset stuff or with strategy. But being just like an entrepreneur, being a practice owner, however you want to look at that, you can feel like you're by yourself just doing it, you with your clients. And so I think having those people that get it around you is crucial. Like my husband is a great support system, but he doesn't get it like the other people that are in this space do. So I think that's what's really helpful too, is having different types of community to be able to support you. And that's what I want to create for my clients too, is to really have them be able to be there and say like, yeah, I get it and it's hard, or to cheer each other on. That's what I want to create for them too.
In your own life, what's brought the most joy around meals?
That's brought the most joy. There's different things. I think we have a pretty like relaxed environment at home. Like I practice what I preach, so we do that. I love and hate. I don't want to be too Pollyanna about it, because I do love cooking with my kids, but it also is challenging, right? It's like another step. It's messier, it's all the things, but getting them involved in the kitchen, having them like want to pack their lunches or make snacks. So honestly, it is creating just like more fun and relaxation around food. I'm like, if we could just not be so tense about it and we could just relax and focus more on enjoying the meal, actually everybody would do better with food. And that's really what I try to create in my family. Half the time I don't even know what my kids ate. Like I don't even pay attention to what's actually on their plate. I'm just putting the food out, and then we play games together at the table, just like we play like ABC game, or I'm thinking of something like, guessing games, not like full board games that are distracting, but like we play games together. We'll listen to music. We'll talk about the day. Sometimes we're big into baseball. We might like watch the Dodger game or something too so like we just create an environment that's fun and enjoyable, and it isn't ever micromanaging anybody's intake.
What's a small ritual or habit you've created to protect your own food peace?
What have I done? I'm trying to think. It's so different being a parent now, right? Because sometimes I'm just like trying to get something in really quick in between all the things. So it changes when you think about like even first having kids. I remember I would sit down and I'd be like, oh my gosh, can I eat my lunch really quick while they're napping or whatever it might be, or before I have to clean up the next thing. And so I feel like it's changed a bit. But so I don't know if I would call it like a habit or a ritual, but I mean, I'm pretty like, me eating is non-negotiable. It's not like I don't eat. I'm like, I will eat breakfast every single day. I know some people like will go to a baseball game and they're like, oh, I haven't eaten all day. I'm like, not me. Like I make sure that I, eat at every meal, and I do prioritize that. And I wouldn't say again that this is so much of a habit or ritual, but I am intuitive with checking in with myself. Like, okay, what do you feel like right now? What do you want to have? And I try to get connected before I go and make something.
And what's your long-term vision for Nourish Together? And how it impacts on families. What's the goal here?
Yeah. I see my program being huge. Like when I really visualize it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to reach thousands and thousands and thousands of families when I think about it. Um, I've actually created kind of like two levels just so that I can reach more people now. So people can buy it just as like a course. And I'm trying to figure out a small bit of support for that right now. I've tried some different things because I really want people to still be able to get a support system. But like right now, my higher level of Nourish Together is a 4-month group program where I run weekly calls. And so I want them to be able to still get the material to go through it step by step on their own with maybe just a lesser level of support that's more feasible for some families in terms of finances. So I see that just like the course portion blowing up and reaching as many people as it possibly can so that they can have this information and actually be able to implement and apply it to their family and then still maybe have a space to ask a few questions. And then the Nourish Together, the bigger program, continuing to grow as well and to be able to serve more people. And I can, again, envision being able to add more things. Like I've gone through phases of bringing in a parenting specialist once a month to talk about different things. Like I could bring more other professionals in to support them with other parenting things and stuff too. So I have so many ideas for it to just continue to grow as it gets there.
Nicole, to wrap up, let's give listeners a clear next step. We'll talk about what you're currently offering, who's it designed for, and where people can find you if they want to connect.
Yeah.
So, Nicole, what's the best place for parents to start with you if they're curious?
Yeah, the best place is probably my Instagram, Nicole Cruz RD, because I post regularly there in terms of just like reels and posts. And then also I'll do stories. I'll share about what I have going on next, all of that. So that's probably the place I'm most active. And you can also, if you go there, you'll also be able to find like my free guides and other ways. So it's kind of, it could be a resource hub for you to get in touch with me in other ways too.
Who's your ideal client and how do they know when they're ready to work with you?
Yeah. So my ideal client is parents of so I do work my Nourish Together is built for parents of 2 to 12-year-olds. So it's like school age parents. I do take one-to-one parents of teens that need more support around that. But the group program itself is built for parents of 2 to 12-year-olds who want their kids to eat well, who want them to be healthy, to get the nutrition they need, but they also want to do it in a way that doesn't promote guilt or shame or bigger eating issues, that also really, the parents really recognize that they want their kids to have a healthy relationship with food in their body. And that has to be just as much of a priority as getting the nutrition in them. So that's my ideal person. And in terms of when they're ready to work for me, I think if you are feeling like you have any sort of tension around food, whether that's tension with your child, tension with yourself, questioning like, am I doing this right? Am I screwing them up? Why won't they eat their vegetables? I'm worried about their weight. I'm worried about their health. If you're questioning anything about it, or if you're seeing some behaviors with your child that feel out of balance, like they won't try new foods, or it does seem like they're not listening to their body and they're just eating to eat or eating more than you think they should, any of these things would be a, yellow flag. And I would say it's the right time. And I have parents that come and just say, I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. Like, you don't have to have any major issues. Like, you could just take the program and get all the language and all the structure and make sure that, yeah, I want to make sure I'm setting my kids up for success and giving them that solid foundation.
Which of your offerings get the most feedback or transformation from families?
I think the Nourish Together group program, the 4-month program for sure, because it really gives them the opportunity when you get lifetime access to all the material. So if you join when you have a 6-year-old and then they're 12, you're still like, oh, now they're at a different phase and this is what's happening and how might I be able to apply this differently? So when you're going to get that lifetime access to the program, you get things like cheat sheets and stuff I say to be able to download, and then you can share it with your partner to make sure you're both on the same page, or if grandparents help. So it's so comprehensive. It gives you all of these different tools, from feeding kids to things about body image and how to raise them to be more confident. So it really covers all of these different bases. And in those 4 months, that's where I see people getting the most traction. So it's like, okay, parents will tell me in the first week or two, I already feel better. I feel more at ease. I feel more relaxed. I feel like we have a plan. And then they'll start to see some shifts with their kids, but come around 3 to 4 months, they're really feeling like they're getting momentum. They have it down. They've created new patterns and habits. And so that's what I think gets the most transformation, is because they have that full container to do it in and to keep coming and asking questions and applying.
If a practitioner wants to support families the way you do, what's one piece of advice for them?
Just start. Like, just put yourself out there and start. Take a one-to-one client. Start there if you're not supporting families in this way yet. Like, just get to know more about what they really need, how you can support them. I think the biggest thing that we do is we wait until we have it like all figured out, and we're going to learn so much more by actually being in it with clients. Now, obviously, if you aren't well versed to do this, if you've never done this work or you don't have any experience, I wouldn't say that. You need to figure it out. I have some practitioners take my courses because they want to learn more about like what I am teaching and the approach and everything. But if you feel well versed in this and this feels like a passion of yours, just start. Just put it out there that you're taking one-to-one clients. Start there, and then you'll work your way into being able to create other programs if that feels like a fit.
How do you support parents through the decision from overwhelmed to taking action?
I try to break it down really small steps, and that's why the 4 months is really helpful too, and why I do such regular calls, because it really helps to be able to say, like, this week you are working on this one thing, and not feel like, oh my gosh, I have so many things. So I think when parents often come into this work, they will feel like, "Ugh, it's so messed up. I have so many things to fix or to change, or I've been doing it all wrong." And so it can feel like a lot. And so to be able to say, like, we're just going to work on this one thing this week. And for some families, that's they're going to try to have one family meal together because they don't normally eat. And that could be a supportive place. Not that every family has to have family meals all the time, but that's one example of what they might do. Or it might be they're going to start doing snacks different in the afternoon and be more proactive so that they're not just on their heels all the time. But really deciding it's just like one small step. For some parents, it's doing everything they're doing, but they're going to, like my parents say, I'm trying to just zip it at the table. Like, they're just going to zip it and not say anything. So choosing one thing, then we have, again, like an accountability check-in at the end of the week they can fill out. So there's lots of touch points to keep them going.
Are there any upcoming workshops or resources they should know about?
Yes. Well, I don't know when this is coming out. So I am doing a training next week, on next Wednesday, the 27th, which is about how to talk to your child about nutrition. I'm doing that actually inside of my Nourish Together program, but then I put it out to anybody who's not in, that they can join. It's $27. But I also run regular trainings. I don't have the one scheduled for September yet, but I will be doing trainings coming up. I have one called Stress-Free Family Eating. I have another one called Help Your Child Try New Foods. And so I do run those regularly for free. And then I also will share about Nourish Together when people come to that. So I walk through the whole step by step of all the changes and the approach and the philosophy around it. And then also tell them more about Nourish Together if they want to get more support. So I do that on a fairly regular basis too. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll find all of the dates and things for those coming up.
How can they connect with your community of intuitive eating families?
Yeah, the best way is, well, there's a couple ways, I guess. So one, if you go to Instagram, that's a great place to just get connected to me. I do have a private Facebook group called Joyful Eating for Your Family, which is a free private Facebook group. But if this is something that you're feeling like you need more in-depth support around, and you are kind of struggling with food in your kid, to get inside of our Nourish Together community, if you go to Instagram and you DM me the word align, that'll give you the link to be able to book a call with me so that we can chat about if we might be a good fit to be a part of that community.
And where should practitioners go for bite-sized advice of practical tips from you?
Wait, can you say that again?
Where can practitioners go for bite-sized advice for
Yeah.
practical tips from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing that other that, other clients would go. I think my resource guides are great. So if you go to my website, you'll see like free resources on there. And that's a great place to get started too, which also then you can get on my email list, and then you'll be getting those regularly weekly emails where I do kind of share little tips and things or stories about what's happening and that sort of thing.
What should parents expect when working with you for the first time?
I think multiple things. One is expect to feel actually better, to feel relieved. That's what parents often tell me, is that they feel more relieved now that we're working together. They feel like they have more of a plan. They feel like they understand things better. They also feel like they have accountability to keep doing it and to stay on track, because sometimes it feels like, I know I should be doing this, but it's really hard sitting at the table. And so they feel like they have more accountability. And I think you have a safe space. Like, we have a very judgment-free, open, understanding space to be able to share whatever's coming up for you. And I think that's really critical to be able to do this work.
Nicole, thank you so much for being so generous with your insights and art today. If listeners want to connect with you, whether to join stress-free family eating, grab your intuitive eating guides, or join your community, you'll find all the links in the show notes. Thank you again for being here. And to our listeners, don't just listen, use what you've learned today, go build with it. We'll see you in the next episode.